anime and Warhammer. Tune into Ken Green Tats and Talks podcast.
What's the crack, everybody? Welcome to the Ken Green Tats and Talks podcast. With me, your host, Ken. So I just wanted to make a show, I'm sure you're all aware now, that goes over all the stuff that influences my art. So everything from Warhammer to anime to manga, and also to go over some of the tattoo artists that inspire me, some of the ones that I realize have done really hard work, and some of the tattoos that I really love. So if you want to join me on this crazy journey into my mind, give us a cheeky follow. Okay. So this week, I was basically going to go over some more local guys that I either aspire to be, maybe, or look up to, or see how they have run the game and basically put themselves in a position where they are flying high. Let's put it that way. So the first one I'm going to go over is Chris Hill. Now, I think I mentioned Chris Hill in one of my other podcasts. I had the absolute delight to work with Chris Hill in Skimworks. He was there when I started off doing my apprenticeship. He was the one that really inspired me to do the more nerdy kind of tattoos. Because when I went into tattooing, I had a very limited view on what could be done and what people want. Stuff like, I think my portfolio at the beginning was all like neo-Japanese stuff or neo-traditional. That's basically all that I seen and went, I can kind of like that stuff. It wasn't until I seen him working and doing all the really gnarly, cool sort of Star Wars and pop culture references and all the sort of like proper 80s cartoon kind of stuff that made me kind of go, oh, here, hang on a minute. So people do want this. And the reason I thought that, Chris was always flat out. Sorry, I should say it. His Instagram handle is Arms Like Wings. It should have been up here somewhere. His Instagram handle, or not, I just said that. Banana. His work ethic, that's what I was talking about. His work ethic was on point. He would do a full day sitting with what was given to him in Skimworks. He would then proceed to do another full day sitting afterwards. He worked his ass to the bone 5, maybe 6 days a week, smashing out tattoo after tattoo after tattoo, really zeroing in on his skills. Like you've seen a ridiculous curve of from when I started to when he left. It, like, don't get me wrong, he was never down here in my eyes. Like from when I started, he was here, and then he just did that. It was madness. He then, I think he went on to go to Chris Crook's shop. Yeah, he did. He went to Chris Crook's shop to get a bit more sort of publicity, basically get out in the world, because Chris did a lot of international conventions, and that suited where Chris needed to go to build his name and stuff like that. He owns he part owns or co-owns, or however you want to put it, Electric Leopard with Jamie and Morel and possibly Sarah. I don't know if she's bought in, but like it's the 4 of them now over in Electric Leopard doing some sweet tattoos over there. But yeah, like I love Chris's stuff. Like when you first go on his Instagram, his first post is this redonkulous back piece, like Predator versus Alien in a Japanese style. Chef's kiss. I love it. And this just shows you what he like, pop culture, nerdy, but done in a really cool tattoo way. He doesn't use too many flares and tricks and cool things. It literally just fucking solid tattoo done clean and simple, and it will hold. Um, it's spectacular, and even you can see, I think, 2 sleeves as well on that person that he's done too. Um, there's something about the way Chris tattoos that you look at it, and I've talked about this in the other one. You look at it and go, "That's a Chris Hill tattoo." I don't know if it's his color palette or his line work, or there's just something about it that makes you go, "That's a Chris Hill tattoo." But you see here, like he does a lot of the sort of, here's a full sort of 80s. So you've got Transformers, He-Man, Thundercats, Banana Man, and Michelangelo. Proper old school cartoons. That's the kind of stuff that. Then you've got another one here, which is just 2 Transformers. Again, clean, crisp, massive, lovely job. Um, then he also does a lot of like the comic book kind of stuff. But again, he does it in a way you just look at it and go, "Oh, that's a Chris Hill." Like I've seen him sit and draw stuff. Like he used to draw. I say used to. I'm assuming he does as well now. But he hand draws pretty much everything. None of this tablet stuff, which I use. He is 100% pen to paper. He will draw it, and then when I was working, he used a Copic marker. Like he was the one that sort of like explained to me how to do the blends and stuff. So you see here, here's one, a rogue from X-Men. That's just spectacular. And here's like a comic book kind of style Darth Maul. Again, like just simple, but you can see how it ties into everything else that he's done, even though it's a generic, I say generic character, something that's been done a bazillion times. You can still sort of look at that and go, that's Chris Hill. It's spectacular. But he does do some other stuff, like here's one, it's a Luke Skywalker, ever so slightly more realism, but still done in that sort of comic book kind of way. It's amazing. And then he has done a few anime pieces. Like I've seen he's done like Dragon Ball. Um, I'm tattooing a guy now where he's got all like Dragon Ball chibis on the outside. So he does do anime pieces as well. But I'd say his forte would be probably that sort of nerdy, Star Warsy, transformy, like 80s, 90s pop culture, that kind of stuff. Like that seems to be where a lot of his tattoos go to. And you can't fault him for it. Like they are all amazing and clean and crisp, and they've got these funky wee backgrounds or this tone to it, or there is just something about it that you kind of instantly know it's a Chris Hill tattoo. And I can't honestly put my finger on it what it is. It's just, if you showed me these pictures, I'd say maybe one of them I'd be like, oh, that could be anyone, but the rest of them I'd be like, that's Chris, that's Chris, that's Chris. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's the brightness of it or what, or the styly tattoos or something like that. I could just instantly tell. But Chris is also just a lovely guy, and whenever I get the chance, and I do talk to him, like if I bump into him or at a convention or whatever, like we sit and we chat, and it's like we haven't been apart for like 5 years. You know what I mean? But again, at the same time, it's good catch up. Because it is such a long gap between seeing each other. But he is such a lovely guy, and he was actually he was my first human, other than myself, canvas. He let me do a stormtrooper helmet on him, and he explained like I had colored the flames the wrong way. I'd done red tips down to no, I'd done yellow tips down to a red base. He was like, well, actually, flame is brighter at the bottom, so you need to invert that. And I did, and he, as we were tattooing, he explained stuff to me. I think the only thing I overdid on him was the shading underneath the stormtrooper helmet. Like if you go way back on my Instagram page, I think it is on there. But I think I overworked it and it fell out a wee bit because he showed me. I can't remember when he showed me, but he showed me a few years after I'd done it. And the shading had fallen out, but the rest of it looks sweet. That you can't fault it. Looks really cool. Next one I'm going to talk about. is Mark M Tattoos. So a lot of you will probably know who he is. He is the black and gray anime master at the moment. He has gone strength to strength with his tattoos, especially his anime tattoos. Like, he was always solid, he was always good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying anything like that's changed, but it's what I was saying in one of my other videos. Like, the more practice you get at something, the better you get. Like, I was looking back, I think he's been doing them for a good number of years. But when you look back, even what's this 25, say 3 years, when he was still doing a lot of the mandala kind of geometric stuff that got him his followers, and because it's all his work's always clean, it's a lot darker in the whip shading, and he did that in the anime and Pokemon stuff, an awful lot. But now he's getting more anime and more Pokemon because he's won a buttload of awards. He's gone to Anime Incon. Like, I went with him last year. Shared a booth with him. Again, great guy. Him and Matzi were two of the ones that made me feel really welcome at the convention. You know, he's got to the point now where he's even being asked to judge at these kind of stuff. He's actually also the one running the Belfast one. So the first Northern Ireland Anime Inc. Is run by him in the in the waterfront at the end of the month, and I'm so looking forward to that. It is going to be so much fun. Got my costume sorted. I know exactly what I'm doing. It's going to be a wee bit scary on the day, because there's facial hair changes, which I'm slightly worried about. But anyway, that's beside the point. Um, but yeah, like I was saying, like, you can see now that he's getting more of the anime. He has cleaned and refined the style. It's not as dark. It is much more tonal, like, and it's crisper, sharper. You know what I mean? Like, some of these pieces up here, like, he's a Pokemon master. So you've got this Gengar and Psyduck one. Um, you've got this Drowsy one that he did a couple of years ago on myself. And then you've got this sleeve, the one that won in Anime Inc. And I obviously was sitting beside him as he was doing it, and he rocketed through that in the 2 days, and it's just so clean and so nice. And even with this a slight redness to it, you still freaking you could tell everything was there. You know, there was no overworking dots or skiffy dots where it just turned into red dot. Like, every dot, every shade is done perfectly. It's done correctly. It's done to the point where you're like, yes. But you also, like, all this anime. Like, I've only got a couple of ones that I really liked. You know what I mean? So there's this Dragon Ball one that he posted the other day. Like, it's just so nice. Those skin breaks that he does are amazing. This Madara from Naruto. I just the tone change in the hair is what really I like. I've only done this sort of style a few times when people have asked. It's not my forte. I know how to do it. I just can't do it as clean as he can. You know what I mean? But that, again, that's practice for him. I'm only doing it every now and again. But it's those big skin breaks and stuff that he does are just beautiful. Um, you got another JJK piece here of Gato. Again, super clean, lots of skin left to give that lighter tone. Makes the piece. And then you've got a piece from Demon Slayer here. I can never say this man's name, but he's like, it's just, again, super clean, super smooth. Um, you've got this one from Final Fantasy 9. Um, Again, skin breaks, smooth shading, big chunky bold lines. It's just class, and you can literally scroll back and see his stuff go from a more sort of, I'm not, this is not me having a go, this is me, a more manly sort of style geometric mandala, you know, where you want it a bit darker, a bit rougher, You know what I mean? It's not the same as you would put on a girl. You make it all delicate and stuff. It's like chunky, but he has now developed that, smoothed it out, thinned it down, crisped it up to become. It's just anime black work god. And I'm not blowing smoke up anyone's ass with these things. The stuff is good. It's amazing. It's massive. Does it in a day. In fact, he does a couple. Like the one he did on my leg. It's probably about, I'd say about that big. So it's a good 6-7 inches. 6-7 inches. And it's, I think he did. He flew through it. He was. I think I can't remember exactly. I just remember we were in and out super quick. You know what I mean? It's just mad how fast he is, but he manages to get it, and that's what you want. That sort of, the more skilled you get, you should become a bit faster. Therefore, you should get more done. Therefore, when you're charging, you can charge appropriately to your skill level and your speed and stuff like that without taking too long to do something. You know what I mean? It's just, he's got to that point and it's amazing. And they've actually got, I think they just moved to their new shop up the Ormo Road. I might be wrong on that one, but Meraki 2. And it looks like it's going to be a brilliant space. It's way bigger than the original Meraki. Which, by the way, because I didn't mention that, that's what he owns. Mark owns Meraki in Belfast. Meraki Tattoo. They've all got quite some good artists in there that do lots of mix of different styles. But yeah, like these two, Chris and Mark, they have pushed their career when they needed to, and they've done it the right way, and they have their own shops, and they have artists working with them and for them and all that kind of stuff, and they've done it in a relatively short amount of time. And that, like, I have to admit, that's something I'm probably a wee bit jealous of. um I wish I could have forced myself to do that sooner. uh it's not like, to be fair, for a long time, having my own shop wasn't really a thing in my head. I was like, I can't be bothered with that, and I probably still can't be bothered with it. Like, it's a lot of work, a lot of saving and stuff like that. But when you see people like Chris and Mark do it and do it right, you're like, oh, gee. And then there's other shops that I've seen is like, that's cool. I could do that. It does make you sort of go, oh, but they obviously knew what they wanted to do from an early sort of start in their career, and they pushed themselves, they got there, and they're doing well. You know what I mean? And you can't fault them for it. So, bit of a switch up now. We're kind of moving away from people that would do anime and stuff like that, or nerdy stuff. The next one I want to talk about is Neil Morris, Moz. I think it's Moz Tattoos, isn't it? Yeah, Moz Tattoos. Again, I'll post all these up here. He is he's such a nice guy. Like, I've met him a few times. Did conventions with him. Lovely guy, sort of similar boat as I am. Has a family. Trying to care for them and do a good job. But he owns Shoreline. Is this? I don't want to. I never want to get this. Yeah, Shoreline in, I think it's White Abbey or Glengormley, or like that sort of direction. Um, and this guy is a realism wizard. If you want a portrait done, like, I can't. Now, this is not. I'm not, again, dissing anyone else out there. This is just someone who I know of, comes up on my feed an awful lot. I see a lot of the work that they do. I'm not saying, but from my point of view, he is one of the best portrait artists that I have seen in Northern Ireland. Um, like, yes, you've got Sam that we spoke about last time, who does all these amazing sort of color changes and tones and stuff like that. But the thing with Neil is he can do black and gray, and he can do realism, and he just gets it. You know what I mean? It's like when you look at it, it's nice. So you've got these two color ones. You've got Thingy from Scarface, and then you've got Kylo Ren. Obviously, Kylo Ren's got that cool color thing, but color realism, like it looks fine. There's enough darkness in there. There's contrast is there, but there's also enough lightness. But then you look at his black and gray portraits, which is probably what he did a lot more of until recently. So you've got this big, massive back piece of Jesus's head. It's the contrast in that is amazing. And you've got Tupac and Christopher Lee. Like that Christopher Lee one is special. Like those eyes just look like they terrify you at night. Um, it's his black and gray. Let's stick a couple more up here. It's just he's got the contrast right. The the deepest bits are the blackest, and then it comes out to the lightest bits. And I think he does. It does leave skin tone be the lightest point, and then puts a bit of white if he needs it for highlights. You know, each of his portraits, and he seems to do awful lot. He does a lot of scary ones and horror ones, and like that seems to be his main stick is like portraits, and they're great. They're beautiful. All the ones I've seen, I think I've seen there's an Aussie one and a Blade one, and like they're just great. In fact, the Blade one was done. Yeah, the Blade one was done in Manchester, and that's the first time I really sort of talked properly with Neil. And I remember sitting getting sushi with him and just talking about like kids and life with like trying to be a tattoo artist and be a dad and provide and like it was just an honest conversation. It was great, and how our partners deal with it, and all that kind of stuff. He's just such a genuine and such a lovely guy. And he owns his own shop, and I think he's got one person working for him, Junkie Monkey. I think it's only one. He was looking for a second maybe, and I don't know if they've filled the spot yet or not. But yeah, like lovely guy, and portraits are just on point. Like I can't fault a single one. And I've seen them in real life, and same with every tattoo. When you see it in real life, it is way better than a photo, unless the photo's been heavily, heavily edited. But like tattoos in real life are always better than the photos you see on Instagram, because a photo will never capture that sort of initial sort of thing. Um, so yeah, Neil, lovely guy, portrait master. I really do think he has honed his craft to a point where you can't really fault it. If you want a portrait done of a person, of a thing, he'd be the one that I would sort of immediately sort of think of, because I see a lot of his stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, he's pretty good at it. I even some of that, I think Amy Lee from Skull and Bones, she's got Dexter from him, the TV program character, and it's class. It looks good, and I've seen it healed and stuff, and it does the job. So now we're going to move on to two of the Japanese boys that are top of their game, I would say, in Northern Ireland. One has been doing it for a lot longer, but the other one has a good sort of, well, you say good, he's got a good mindset, he's a good work ethic, but it's questionable why he's doing it. I think he possibly have ADHD. So I'll do that one first. So again, I'm not blowing smoke off people's asses, but one of the ones is we'll do the first one, James Conway. Now, obviously, some of you go, but you work for James. It's like, well, technically I do, technically I don't. I technically work in his shop, I don't necessarily work for him. You know what I mean? But that, like, James's tattoos are James's tattoos. You can see him, no matter what frickin' style he does. Sometimes he does neo-traditional, sometimes, well, most of the time he does Japanese, especially now anyway. Um, when you see his tattoos, you go, that's a James Conway tattoo. Because it's those little bits of shading or that flame or the way he colors a scale, or there's just something about it that makes you go, that's a James Conway tattoo. And you'll see them all sort of coming up here, so you've got like skull one here, Hanya mask there. Like they're just, you just look at them and go, yep, that's a James Conway tattoo. You know what I mean? They're all lovely, they're clean, they're crisp, they're solid. I've seen them healed. You know what I mean? He has no problem doing me touch ups if they need to be darkened in certain bits. Like he's got himself to a point where that is what he is known for, and that's great. That's what you want. But he's also got quite a decent business mind. Now, this is what I was saying before. Like sometimes when you work with him, you kind of get the impression he can't fucking sit still. You know what I mean? Like once one thing's done, he's on to the next one. Like what was it? It was like we were working on Hellfire, or he was working on Hellfire, trying to get it all sort of up and running and get it started and blah blah blah. And then once it was done, he was then already working on the convention, the Belfast convention, which was the first year last year, and it did really really well. I think that this year should be a really good one too, because now that you're starting to get past that teething problem of like setting up a convention for the first time. Um, but yeah, and then once he'd done that, it was the second part of Hellfire where we've got this whole big extension that's coming, to make it bigger. He's just, the boy has fingers in all the pies, but he does that in the background while designing his tattoos, doing his tattoos, running Skull and Bones, helping run Hellfire. You know what I mean? And talking to people, getting people down for guest spots, but like it's just nice to see. And he's a proper shop manager. You know what I mean? Like there's some people who will run a shop, and it's more just a place for them to tattoo than anything else. Whereas he comes round, he chats with everyone. He doesn't matter what the hell they're doing. That's a lethal tattoo. That's a lethal tattoo. Oh, that's nice. That's lethal. What's that? I mean, he'll chat to you about stuff. He'll joke with you. He's a proper shop manager. It's the same way. Like I think Donald from Skimworks is the same. If he had a moment, he'd walk around. I'd sort of have a look and see what you're doing. Now, at the same time, Donald would mostly check on the junior artists and make sure we were doing the right job. And if he didn't think so, he would let us know, and that's good. Like constructive criticism makes sense in this industry. You need it. You cannot go out there and just sort of think you're the bee's knees from day one. Someone needs to go, well, actually, that's going to be like shit. You need to fix that on your next one. You know what I mean? That's you need that. And then once you lose that, you kind of have to start being able to do that yourself. Like when they say lose it, like they leave, you leave, stuff happens. You need to be able to do that to your own work. Now, most artists are heavily critical. Like I've said this before, but I am heavily critical of my own work, um, to the point where sometimes I don't even post it. Like I'd say, especially the last couple of years, there's a massive chunk of tattoos I never posted, um, because I didn't like something or it didn't come out in the photograph, or it was too red. It was just like I can't post that. Like people will think it's crap. You know what I mean? You do have to get out of your own head. Um, but anyway, that's beside the point. So yeah, so James, proper shop manager, but he's got his head like all these ones. I think everyone I speak about today, maybe except Chris, is younger than me. You know what I mean? And they are all shop owners. They are all like they have defined their style. You know what you're going to get when you go to them. You know what I mean? Somewhere where I don't find myself. Like I at the start of my career, I didn't mind being a jack of all trades. You know what I mean? I didn't mind lending my hand to everything because I kind of thought if I could do a bit of everything, I'd never run out of work. And technically, that's true until obviously recently when I've been mostly pitching myself as a color anime or that kind of artist. Then people will look at my page and never ask for a black and grey realism piece. You know what I mean? Some do, don't get me wrong, and if I've got the space, I'll happily do it. But there is there's definitely something to be said about being a jack of all trades. Now, again, I put myself down for that. I was like, oh, jack of all trades, master of none. You know what I mean? And I started putting myself down. That's when I really started to change how my Instagram looked and tried to focus in more. Still did lots of other stuff on the other side, but I just didn't post them, you know. But then I found out the full phrase: jack of all trades, master of none, but still better than a master of one. So that gave me hope again. But again, I still like it's more for what I want to do. I still focus in on the color anime kind of stuff on my page more and more. Unless I really like something, then I'll post it. Okay, so I kind of went tangent there. I forgot where I left it off with James. Just James is a good shop manager, fingers in all the pies, hard worker. You know what I mean? Same with all these guys. Oh yeah, age. Yeah, so I'm older than all these guys. Even this last guy. The last one I'm going to talk about today is the another Japanese boy who has set himself up really well. It's Chris Crooks. Now a lot of you have probably heard of Chris Crooks. Chris Crooks went. I think he had his 40th birthday the other week. Happy birthday, by the way. But yeah, like again, he's a good couple of years younger than me. But he has been tattooing now, I don't even know how long, 20, maybe longer years. You know what I mean? He has been around the world. He did it, he was in the old sort of generation of tattoo artists where you didn't really have the internet or TV programs or that kind of stuff that you could pick up a style or have a look at something or be taught something. You literally had to go out and get trained by them. So I think he spent a lot of time in learning from like proper Japanese masters to get to where he is now. And again, he's got his own style. You look at Chris Crooks' stuff and go, that's a Chris Crooks tattoo. Mostly nowadays because it's bloody huge. Like I think he tends to get people in for a couple of days in a row, and he has people flying from all over the world. He's made that much of a name for himself. Like, can you imagine living in Belfast and being so world renowned that people will fly in to get a piece of work from you? That's madness, but it's amazing. It's amazing for our little wedge of the world. You know, we have a top tier Japanese artist that comes in, but like he does massive sort of back pieces. You see them here, arms. But he does tend to post a lot about back pieces that he's done, and he goes all over the world to these um, top tier tattoo conventions, and tends to like I couldn't even tell you how many awards he's probably won in his lifetime. Um, it's just it's really really clean and really really good to see. Um, and he really embraces the whole Japanese culture and side of things. Um, and when you get to his point in like his level, like you are able to sort of choose your prices. And I think when I remember the first time somebody told me how much he was for a day, I was like, holy crap, for Northern Ireland, that's madness. But then I started paying attention on his Instagram and seeing like what he can do in one day. I don't. There's no way I could. There's no way I could do that. And I would class myself as quite a fast tattooer, but he would line and possibly shade some of, if not most of, like a back piece in a day. And I mean like properly line. None of this sort of, oh, I'll give it a wee grey line and go over it next time you're in. Properly one pass, big in, off you go. Thank you. See you tomorrow to do the color 2 days in a row. You know what I mean? It's amazing. So when you kind of work it out like that, he's probably you get a lot of bang for your buck. Yes, he's pricey, but you get a crap load done. You know what I mean? You get an awful lot done, and you get a fucking world class, top tier Japanese tattoo. Like when you look at all of them, they're just like I'd say, yes, he has his own way of doing things. Like he's got his own cherry blossoms and his own waves and stuff like that. But you can see the fundamentals are all in the traditional way of doing a Japanese tattoo. You know, like that you can instantly tell what they all are. You know, you've got there's a samurai, that's a tiger, that's a peony, a lotus, blah blah blah. There's nothing weird about it. You kind of instantly go, oh, that's what that is. But that looks like a Chris Crooks because of this color and that color. I think he uses a lot of turquoise and mint. There seems to be a lot of that throughout his tattoos. Like he'll try and put a wee bit in here and there. I think that's probably one of the things that make you know it's a Chris Crooks. Similar to probably Chris Hill. You know, there's something about the color palette or the way they tattoo. Actually, even seen with James. Like there's something about the way they do it. You can tell who done it. You know what I mean? Um, I think I sometimes make my stuff look too generic's not the word. I suppose my subject matter would be the same as Chris's. You know, you kind of have to make it look like the character you're wanting to do, but how much of your own spin do you do on it? I think that's why at the moment I'm focusing on the way I sort of color and shade stuff compared to how I draw it. Because if someone comes to me and wants a character, I want them to look like the character. And I'm sure they do as well, rather than my own version of that character. You know, understand what I'm saying? Um, so that's like with Chris and James, they are able to do that, but have their own spin on it. Now, don't get me wrong, Mark does it as well, and Neil with his portraits. You know, like Neil's a bit like because he's slightly separate. Like he is trying to do a replica of that person, so it has to look like them. You can't put too much. Can't put too much of a spin on your on of that on your own one. Um, but yeah, um, the gist of it is in this one. These are all guys who have worked their butts off from varying lengths of time to get where they are. I'd say Mark and the two Chris's have been tattooing longer than I have. Um, James has been tattooing about the same length of time I have, and I don't actually. I have no idea how long Neil's been tattooing. If I'm being perfectly honest with you, I think it's probably just less than me and James as well. But you know, these guys have all developed their own signature style. They're good businessmen. They were able to create their own shops and drive their own work and publicize themselves the right way to drive up the right amount of followers to, you know what I mean? They are all comfortably doing what they want to do. And if I'm honest with you, there's probably a part of me that is slightly jealous of it. There's also another part of me going, geez, I could never be arsed doing that. Like I do find it hard enough that as it is at the moment to put my all into a tattoo and a tattoo design while still doing family stuff, because with two kids and all the activities they do and all the homework and all, time is very limited. Even like time with my partner. You know, we try to set aside one night for date night a week, but if I'm honest with you, sometimes we're just both so exhausted that we don't end up doing anything, or we do something for like 5 minutes and then that's it. You know what I mean? These guys all seem to be in like good relationships. They've got kids, they've got families, they've got businesses. They're able to do it, and like I said, if I'm honest with you, I'm probably a wee bit jealous of it. But at the same time, it's hats off to them. You know what I mean? Well done. I understand how difficult it must be to get there and keep going. Um, but yeah, it's just five artists, different styles, but they all they would I would view them kind of in the same boat as me. However, they have been more successful. Again, it all depends on how you use it. Like I am able to provide for my family, and I'm happy with that. That's all that really counts to me. I'm not saying it's not to them as well. Um, but I would say that these guys are the ones now again reiterating everything I've said. I am not dissing anyone else who's in the same boat. These are just the ones that pop up on my feed the most, and I would see the most of and know the most about. That you know, like it's not like I'm stalking them or anything, but you know, I'd know more about them and what they do than like someone else who probably is just as good, but I don't see them as well. Like the algorithm is terrible on Instagram, so God knows who sees what when. Um, but yeah, that's basically it for this week. What is next week's? Next week's is Undetermined Tattoo Show. I don't know. I can't remember. It's on my phone, and I can't look at my phone because I'm recording with my phone. But it's something about tattoos again. So I apologize for not knowing because I can't remember. But I love yous. I'll see you next week for a tattoo show. Peace out.